Hello, viewers. I'm SB, and welcome back to Last Call BBS, where I realized something. I was looking at our handymate here, and there was an entry in between Last Call BBS and World Time Server that was still not filled in. And I was like, what could that possibly be triggered by? That's so early in the like it being before World Time Server. Like it obviously has to do with Zachtronics Connect. So I just dialed back into the BBS to see what's up, and yep, sure enough, here's what we find. Last Call BBS is closed effective immediately. There's nothing here anymore. The barkeep has never condoned or promoted the unlawful distribution of pirated software. Perish the thought. Thanks for all the good times, the barkeep. It's always sad when something like this happens. Last call's last call. After a while, software piracy turned into this big issue, and law enforcement agencies started coming for some of the bigger wares boards out there. There was one based in Texas I was friendly with that got the whole works. Raided, equipment confiscated, federal charges, and everything. Now, personally, I didn't think what I was doing was wrong. Everything I distributed was otherwise impossible to get. I wasn't trying to cheat anybody or take money away from people, but I didn't want to risk legal trouble and I liked my job, so I had no choice. See, the chilling effects. I have to tell you, having been growing up during this period, there was something about the idea of software piracy. Some rich people somewhere heard about the idea that there were people in the world who were not having the maximum amount of money extracted from them, and it put the fear of God into them like nothing I've ever seen. The Blitz, the Metallica, and the terrible ads that were running constantly. We were all familiar, of course, with the ridiculous "you wouldn't download a car" thing. I think it's a combination of the fact that rich people hate poor people, and they thought they were not doing enough damage via the computer, which is that's the thing that's scary to rich people, because rich people are mostly very old and they do not understand computers. I don't know. It's the coordinated media press on scare quotes software piracy was absolutely wild. So, with that, all that remains is these entries that seem very clearly to do with Chip Wizard Professional, and then this one at the very end, which is either at the end of those Forbidden Path puzzles, the ones that were added after the game came out, which makes me feel like maybe not, or it's unlocked by getting all of the other entries, which I think is way more likely, and frowny face. Because, y'all, let's go have a look at Chip Wizard Professional. So I did solve this second puzzle. I know we had a very brief look at it, and I was like, this is kind of dry and not interesting to me. We'll come back. So I was able to do this second puzzle. How was I able to do it, you ask? I read the manual. There's a manual, it turns out, that does clarify things to some extent. I guess I got so used to just figuring it out because there weren't real instructions for so many of the games that it didn't occur to me to look for instructions for this one, which is kind of silly in retrospect. So you have this layout window, you have the specifications window where it's telling you what the intended outcome is. Pardon me. And you have your cool 3D visualizer area, which I do honestly think is very cool. So you have your silicon layer, which is underneath the metal. You have your vias, which are small vertical wires that connect the silicon to the metal. And then you have capacitors, which can delay the flow by one or more cycles instead of flowing instantly. So this is if there's a timing relevant element to your puzzle, I guess. But here's the real piece of information that I needed. To create an NPN transistor, you have to make a 3x1 line of N-type silicon and then draw the red silicon into the middle of it. And you do the same thing to create a PNP. And so the NPN and PNP are describing dot, right? NPN transistors are signals can only flow between the two terminals, the two blue terminals, when there is also a signal entering the red gate that controls the transistor. So NPN transistors are AND gates, logically. While the opposite is true here. PNP transistors only allow signals to flow between the red terminals when the blue gate is not powered. So these are XOR gates, the exact opposite of an AND gate. Which means that this thing, create an AND gate, was just as simple as putting one of these down because this thing is itself an AND gate. It will only be on when both the signals are on. Pretty straightforward, it turns out. And yeah, like, what a surprise. Everybody did it that way. So I didn't really have a look at the next puzzle because I was like, that's okay, fine. We should tackle this stuff on camera. We'll have a quick look at this, but I might do a lot of these off camera because I'm finding this game a lot less appealing, obviously, and I kind of want to make room for it. There's some new stuff that's come out, and I kind of want to make room for it here. So let's see here. All right, so what are we doing? We're building an OR gate, a non-exclusive OR gate. If you're not familiar with, it's probably pretty clear what I mean. Okay, so out X should be high when either in A or in B is high. And when they're both, right? Is that what we're doing? Is there a time on this timeline when they are both high? Yes, here. And yes, the answer is yes. If they are both high, then the thing needs to stay high. Okay. How do we actually do that? So, I mean, there's something definitely interesting in the idea of the two layers arranged spatially the way they are and the very, very small horizontal space you have to work with. So, like, what we want is... which one's which? NPN is AND, PNP is XOR. I kind of hate that because like this is not trivial for you just have to remember this, and I really wish that the one that was the AND gate was the one that had the letter N in the middle, like the word AND. I've got to remember that they're backwards. So NPN is AND. Okay. So you need if A or B out, right? So, okay, it's going to be... This is the AND gate. This is the XOR. Okay. So this will let the power through whenever in A is high and in B is low. Right? That's good. Then you could do like... How would I want to do this? It's a little tricky spatially. I mean, I could just run this metal over here and not run a... Well, but I need to be able to run a signal from this to the metal coming out, going into out X, right? So like, if we do this thing. Okay, so power moves from in A to out X if in B is low. Then we also want to test what if the other way around. What if in A is low but in B is high? So actually I don't need this bit of metal. Right? That's those two cases. But then you also got to ask, what if they're both live? Because right now, this won't output in the situation where they're both high, but it does need to output when they're both high. So how do we just need to like extend a little bit more metal down here, and this one's like this. Does that actually run? Okay. live. Good. And then when the current switches, we have an instability detected. What is the meaning of instability detected? Is this in the also, there's just no music in this game? Because it's not a game, right? It's a piece of productivity software. So, what is the problem right now? In A is high, in B is low. But in B is visibly not low, despite the fact that that's what's showing on the gauge. So it's breaking because they're both live? I don't love that that's like that the simulator gauge does not represent the state of the puzzle correctly. If NB is on, this should be lit up to the top. I don't. Also, apologies if you're a person who's bothered by flashing lights. I don't know what to make of this. Reset. Is this? There's not a page in the manual for help. I'm not allowed to throw capacitors on there, so capacitors don't have anything to do with the solution. I was wondering if the idea was like if you could just delay the signal in by a moment. So the idea is that when they're both positive, this breaks. Why is that the case? And what does instability detected mean? So if they're both positive, then you have no signal coming through here, right? And no signal coming through here. So there should only be signal hitting. I don't know. That's not clear to me. Let's just try some things. I'm just going to remove this. Okay, so I mean, as expected, the times when only one signal is live are cool no matter what. Let's play it to the point where they both go live for a second, though, which is actually remarkably far into the experiment. All right, yeah. So here we're getting a dead out because nothing's crossing these two in this case. That's why we need this other case, but there's no way. So we've confirmed that that's the problem, right? But it's not clear to me why that's a problem. Why is it that both of these being live is causing an issue? I don't get what the flickering is either, because in A should be static, right? It either is or is not powered. And that's something that's happening from outside of the simulation. You need to create a transistor for each input so that the signals do not interfere, which is presumably what we're talking about here. We have signal interference. But like, is there a way to do this and that isn't going to break things? Out of curiosity, just trying to troubleshoot what's broken here. Okay, see, this is interesting. So without these gates being held closed by the blue, electricity wants to just run along the pink, right? I know they said red, but it's pretty pink. So when we're in this state, in B is reading as high even though... So the power is transferring backwards. The power is transferring from out to B. which probably makes some kind of sense to like actual electrical engineers, but it's not a rule of this thing that has been explained in any way. So to me, it is problematic. This is just like behavior that's not supposed to occur. Okay, so yeah, we have verified that it is the power travels along the pink in absence of the blue being held shut. The power travels along the pink and can feed back into the inputs. But that doesn't explain why we're seeing that circumstance when both of the blue things should be on. And as such, power shouldn't be able to flow through the middle of these. Maybe the problem is that the transistors just don't behave at all the way the manual describes. Like the manual description is bad and they're behaving in a way that makes more sense to people who are more familiar with like real electrical engineering. So what does it say about them? Signals can only flow between the two N-type terminals when there is also a signal entering P. Yeah, so in the case where this is a P signal, there shouldn't be electricity flowing across the bar at all. It shouldn't matter if it's entering from both sides because it stops at the blue part. But that is not in fact the result that we're seeing. So, okay, if that's true, if we can't just have these things connected in that way, how do we separate those concerns? Is there a fast reset? Is there a clear solution button? There remarkably isn't. What a decision. Okay, at least you can wipe out anything on the transistor or on the silicon layer with either silicon selected. Okay, so what if we did like... What if it wasn't so many pieces of... Or what if it wasn't so few pieces of metal? Because the metal's just a naked conductor. The metal doesn't know anything. What if we do like... Because we need to do... If this is live and if that is live... I mean, I don't actually need OR gates for this. Do I? Like, you have the very obvious case here, right? Where it's just like, well, obviously, if they're both on, this should work. This is really clumsy to work with, too. It feels a little space chemi, I guess. Okay. So, like, there's no argument here. In this case, we should be getting function. Yeah. In the AND case, things should be reading high. Great. But also... How do we do these OR cases without things feeding back? The problem is that like what's actually happening that causes the feedback is completely undefined. So we're just going to have to like run some tests. And like, I wish I could tell you exactly what it is. What is the difference? Is it actually something about these puzzles or is it just the theme? Why is it okay why does it feel okay to me to be told, yeah, we're not going to tell you what's going on here. You just completely have to figure it out when it's the forbidden path. But when it's here, I'm like annoyed with it. Like I'm tired of this already. I don't know. I'd like to be perfectly honest with you. I think it may be the lack of theming, the dryness of it, that just like you are doing work. Because like I was a programmer for some time, right? Writing code and designing little logical machines absolutely was real work that I did, but it doesn't bother me to do it again in like exapunks or whatever. But something about this version of it does. I don't know. Yeah, I think that I am going to we're gonna maybe handle this a little bit differently. I'll play around with this off camera while also doing something else on my other monitor to sort of like keep my interest up. And I'll figure some things out. I'll maybe do a couple of puzzles and like come back and explain things maybe in batches. But I don't think we're going to watch that whole game on camera, partially because I don't want to do it on camera while trying to commentate, and partially because I do want to make room for other stuff. So that's going to be it for us for today. And thank you all so much for watching. When y'all come back next time, there'll be something else in this space. When you come back tomorrow, there'll be something else in this space. And the rest of the messages and stuff in Last Call BBS will be here eventually. I will figure this out. We will get there. Hopefully pretty soon. Because I'm really curious to see what this last little bit is. Also curious to hear about this guy's boring engineering work. There's something about like the mundanity of these log entries. It's like catnip to me for some reason. Anyway, come back next time, tomorrow, for some new stuff. Come back a little bit later for the rest of this, and we'll see you then.